बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपिताय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंहदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tat Putra Purasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govindra Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyanasmat Gurun Santato Manatosmi. Okay, so today is the last class of the Brahma Sutra, kind of like a course. And so I'll make some final comments, but let's continue on and complete the going through the remaining aspects of the Brahma Sutra that Swami Paramarthananda had recommended. So we will do that. So as you know, we have 4 chapters called Adhyayas in the Brahma Sutra. And the first one is called Samanvaya Adhyaya. So the Samanvaya Adhyaya is the one which says that the entire body of Vedic knowledge, consisting of literally hundreds of Upanishads, hundreds of Smriti texts. We only see a few of them like Bhagavad Gita and Manusmriti and a few of them. There are hundreds of Smritis. And it's a very rich literature, as you know. And then on top of that, then we have all these Prakarana Granthas, Viveka Chudamani and Sadhana Panchakam, and even the Jnana Ankusham that we are doing on the Tuesday night. Literally thousands of Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana Grantha means a particular topic within the Vedantic knowledge. And so then we have Bhashyas, we have the Itihasa, and all of that. So there are 6 layers of literature that we have. And all of them have consistency and a single purpose for them. Tatparya Nishchaya. The Tatparya Nishchaya is that you consider to be a limited human being. You are not. You're something amazing. Please discover that. Please understand it. Please study it. Please look into it. This is the Samanvaya of everything. So this is the first Adhyaya. Then the second Adhyaya, so the first one you might say is primarily Shravanam. The second Adhyaya is called Avirodha Adhyaya. Avirodha means that it is not opposed to anything. So we have, this is where all the akshepa is given, all of the accusations are given by various schools of thoughts like Buddhism, Jainism, and then of course so many others later then came, Islam, Christianity, etc., that accuse the Vedantins of not really understanding. And we say, no, we have no opposition to you. It is kind of like water has no opposition to the waves. You are part of the wave structure, whereas we are trying to understand what the various waves are born out of, which is the very unchanging nature of water. And so there is no opposition to it. You may have an opposition of one wave versus another wave, but you cannot have an opposition to the adhara, the very substance of what the waves are. This is And of course the Sankhya Mata, which is within the Vedic structure itself. It is not the Avedic. It is not outside of the Vedas. But the Sankhya Mata also makes a lot of mistakes. We have studied quite a bit of it, and so basically it says that Prakriti, all the nature, is the cause of the problem. And so we said, not really independently. It is a confusion by the jiva itself, thinking the Prakriti is the cause of the problem. Jiva itself doesn't know, and once it knows, it is okay. Then nothing causes the problem. So this is the nature of the avirodha of the second adhyaya. Okay. Then the third adhyaya is sadhana adhyaya, which we will now very briefly look at, the third and the fourth one. Sadhana adhyaya means that, okay, I understand what you're telling me, but I don't really have a personal experience of that. I still look upon myself as a jiva. I don't look upon myself as a completely free individual, not touched by any of the problems in life and so on. I don't. How do I do that? So this is called the sadhana. And so then you have a lot of different advices. All this is given in the Vedas. And so the third chapter, the third adhyaya, called the sadhana adhyaya, goes into that to a certain degree. Then in the fourth adhyaya, it is the phala, the result of all this. And so there, as we will see very briefly, the question is, so once I do all of this, what is the result? What do I get out of it? Is it like it ensures my future of going to a good experience in my next incarnation, as the Vedas normally say? Or is it something that I can see here right now and I'm free without, in spite of my body-mind complex and so on, I can still feel free? Is it that? This is called Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti. And so the discussion of that, what is the phalam, what is the result, is the subject of the fourth adhyaya. So these are the four adhyayas. Okay, so we have already done a tour up the second adhyaya, Avirodha. We did second adhyaya and third pada, and then we did the adhikaranas 10 through 17 last time. So today let us start with the third adhyaya, the third chapter. Based on the recommendations of Swami Paramarthananda, third adhyaya, second pada, and the fifth adhikarana. Okay, so 3, 2, 5. Okay, so one preamble before we go into this. So, and the Vaiyasika Nyayamala author mentions this. So this is on page 171. And he says, so he summarizes the main title of each of the sections. So here, because we are beginning a new adhyaya, he gives a title to the adhyaya, sadhana para adhyaya. But then he explains it a little bit. He says that it is based on gati, agati and vairagya. So this is interesting, really, when you think about it, and there's so much to talk about all these things. So gati, agati and vairagya. So gati means, there are different ways of explaining gati, but in this context, the gati means, where are we going? What is our aim? where are we going to end up if we don't complete this journey now? What is our next stop? This is what is called gati, or the direction, you can even say. What is the direction? And agati means that if we don't reach our final destination, then what is the intermediate destination? What happens? And really, as you know, what happens is that you are reborn, so to speak, to continue your journey. That's all that happens. And why are you doing this? Because your paraphernalia of the journey is now no longer supporting you. So you see, it's just like, and Gita also says it, that it's like changing clothes. Your old clothes have become so torn. We all have. I have a really very favorite shirt that is that doesn't require ironing. So that is really, I'm really very pleased with that. I must have had it for like 20 years, and finally cracks began to appear. But I am still not throwing it away. I'm hoping that somehow I can repair it. But anyway, eventually it will have to be discarded and I have to get some new clothes. So exactly, agati means that you have to be born again to continue the journey. This is called gati and agati. And vairagya, of course, means that the minimum I should do, minimum, there's not more that I need to do, but the very minimum is I should not be going in the wrong direction. Very obvious. If you are traveling towards some place and it's a difficult journey and so on, imagine if you are given wrong instructions and you follow the opposite, you went to the opposite direction which you have to retrace. And so this is exactly what happens, that we don't follow the directions and then we are actually regressing. And so the vairagya here really means that at least you should, I know you're not there yet and I know it's going to take a while, but the least you should do is not going into a wrong direction. So this is the overall explanation of the third chapter, Sadhana Paradhyaya, Gati, Agati and Vairagya. Anyway, so this is a very long discussion, but I'll just give you a few of the adhikaranas here. So let's go to 3, 2 and 5. 3, 2 and 5. This is also given on starts with page 171. And so here, so this sometimes it is to establish the context, so it is not directly related to that. You cannot understand how is he talking about gati and agati. It's just building up the whole thing. Anyway, so this adhikarana is, tell me, this Brahman that you talk about, is it both formful and formless? In other words, sometimes formful, sometimes formless, or always formless, as the Vedas appears to say. And so this is the discussion. And this is not an ordinary discussion because there are people who, the very famous one, of course, is the Vishishta Advaita, Ramanuja Acharya's Vishishta Advaita. which accepts that yes, Brahman can sometimes be formful, sometimes can be. So end result is the same, that sometimes you are formful, and then you have to go into formlessness. But that is the way Brahman is. This is what is called sampradaya. So when we say Shruti Smriti Purana Nam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. So what it means is, I'm going to be sincerely following the sampradaya. Samyak pradati iti sampradaya, one which is very clearly given. And that sampradaya says no. Brahman is never formful. Even when it appears to be formful, it is still formless. This is just like what? This is like saying, is the water sometimes becomes formful and sometimes it is formless? And of course we know that it can be appearing as if formful or formless. But even when it is formful, does it become formful? This is what is called vivarta upadana karanam. That swaswarupa apparityagena srupaantara apatti iti vivarta. Even when the rupa, the form is something different, that only appears to be the case. Anyway, so that's the discussion about this adhikarana. I'm just randomly picking out a few of them. This is a very exhaustive list, and if you have, I hope that you have the time and the inclination and the interest and the eligibility of understanding Sanskritam and so on. You can go through the whole thing at some point in time, but we're only giving you a few samples. Let's go to 326, which is on page 176. So it just picks up, he says, this Vedic injunction, neti neti iti adesha, na iti. So a negation, a double negation, neti neti. This negation, does it also apply to Brahman along with Jagat? That there is nothing here, nothing here? And we say no. And so this also is a very important thing, because these are not just theoretical. When the acharyas composed all this is not like what if. These are prevalent thoughts of people that crystallize themselves in wrong decisions, wrong conclusions. So the neti here, this is an akshepa from Buddhism, which says that the whole thing is nothing but mithya. Hey, if the whole thing is mithya, then what is remaining? And so then there is some differences in the Buddhistic thoughts. Then some of them say shunya. Shunya means that the whole is ridiculous. It is kind of like committing suicide, that this world is too much for me and I'm just going to commit suicide. And we say that even a person that commits suicide, it's a wrong decision, but the objective is I cannot stand the problems that I'm having now. Like, supposing you have the end of the life when you have a cancer or some difficulty in breathing, your lungs are gone and so on, you're suffering, and everybody else is also suffering. You say, I'm just give me something and make me just let me die. So when you have that, what it means is that my existence as it is now is not acceptable to me, and but it means that I have another way to go, another place to go to. Hopefully that I would get rid of this body problem and I would be given a brand new body somewhere else, which is really what happens actually. So that is a different thing. But to say that I am nothingness and everything is just gone, including my own self, that doesn't happen. No one has that thought. And so therefore the discussion is the neti neti only applies to anatma, not to atma, not to Brahman. And it is meant to negate the reality of the drishya jagat. That's all it does. So the drik jagat, not jagat, but the drik is not negated, only the drishya is negated. So that discussion is given in 3-6. Then in 3-8, the discussion is who gives the result of your actions in life? Who is the karma phaladata? Is it the karma itself or is it Ishvara? Very important. Again, this is not a theoretical discussion because in the Karma Kanda of Vedas, Karma Kanda means that in many of, leave aside other schools of thought and so on, even within Hinduism, within the Vedic school of thought, if you go to not all of the temples, but many of the temples, the Karma Kandins say that really karma is param. You don't need an Ishvara or anybody like that. Your own karmas will give you the results. If you do the right thing, then the good things will happen. If you do the wrong things, then bad things will happen. And yes, there is a vasana from the old one which continues on, and so you have to do prayaschita karma, you have to do all kinds of karmas, but really karmas by themselves will determine what your future will be. You don't really need anybody else to do so. And so we say, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't it make any sense? Because karma is achetana. Actions are not they are the activity of a conscious person. They are not the activities of an opaque jada vastu. That is not possible for us to do. And so here Swami Maheshananji had given this beautiful example. He says, suppose you throw a ball on a wall, a rubber ball, and this was a huge problem in India because as kids were growing up, they would be playing with the balls, and the rubber balls are, of course it should be a rubber ball, not a cricket ball. If you throw a cricket ball on a wall, then the ball will be injured. So it's a rubber ball. But even the rubber balls can leave marks on the wall, and they get dirty, and they can actually injure a little bit. So the parents are always advising them, don't do that. You're going to spoil the wall. The kids have to play with the ball. So usually they are given some outside wall that you can play in, but don't bring it inside. Anyway, if you throw the ball on the wall bounces it back. and the wall doesn't bounce it back with any thought. Whatever the action is, there is a reaction. That's all it does. So the wall is like a karma, but it is really the action of the human being on how you throw the ball, which will determine where the ball will go. So really, in fact, this is a very interesting thing. We'll talk about that some other time in more detail. So Swami Maheshananji said that, listen, suppose you have a shopkeeper who owns a shop. And we have given this same example in other classes as well. So you have cases where people are working as helpers in the shop. And this is a shop owner. And there is a wage that is given to people, whatever it is, I don't have the current rupee, but in terms of dollars, you can say $30 an hour, $25 an hour, something like that, or $40 an hour, whatever the prevailing is. So people give all of this. But then there are bonuses, stock options, all kinds of extra things are given. And there is no vidhi for that. There is no written down rule as to how many options you might be given, how much bonus you will be given. So that bonus comes from an intelligent person that looks at the performance of the person. Is he doing some extra work? Is he sincere? Is he loyal to what the company wants to do? Then you give somebody extra. And sometimes you don't, so you don't give it extra. So as a result, there is a problem in expectations between a person who thinks that I should be getting a bonus and a person who has an integrated approach to it and says, no. This is a competitive thing. This is just how you evaluate A, B, and C. You're okay, but you're not doing something special that you deserve this bonus. So therefore, Swami Maheshananda says, this is exactly what we should see. We should see that the karma phala comes from an intelligent person like the shop owner. Shop owner is not a fool because he's got to assess who are my real stars of this shop? Who are the ones when Diwali comes and I want people to work 14 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day? Who comes forth and said yes? And who's the one who says, listen, I only want to work 8 hours. It's your shop, it is not mine. So based on that, you might give some minimum wages, but the extra work that you do, anyway, I'm going into too much detail, Ishvara is the karma phala data, not the karma themselves. So this is the all right, then the third pada of the third chapter is now starting a vichara of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. And so there are various aspects to that. One of them, which is, and in fact we're going to take one adhikarana out of the third adhyaya, third pada, adhikarana number 30, page 221. Very simple inquiry, and we all know this, but nevertheless it is recorded, because this is a record of all of the possible doubts and questions that people come up with. This is the compendium. This is kind of the final thesaurus, which is what Brahma Sutra is. So it has to go through various topics. So here the question is, is the body-mind complex the Atma, or is it different from it? Is the Atma intricately connected and part and parcel of the body and mind, or is it different from it? To a Vedantin, this is a very elementary question that was answered long time ago in Tattva Bodha. But the fact of the matter is that despite that, our attitudes and our conduct and our activity continues to belie this. And of course, people that have not had an introduction to Vedanta absolutely believe that, really speaking, the Atma and the body and the mind are one and the same. There's no difference between them. And so there, the answer is no. They're completely different, because let's start one thing. It is not the final answer, but one intermediate answer is this. If you think that the body is the person, then why do we do dharma? Why do we do prayers? Because I have some sense of continuity in my next life. I don't think so. The Charvakas are different because the Charvakas feel, just enjoy here. We don't know if there's another life or not. Just have fun. And if you need to cheat and so on and so forth, lie and so on, do it. The main thing is somehow you just have some pleasure in this life. Because we don't know what the next life or not. But they are really not the majority. That's a minority. Everybody has we don't know where we're going to go, where we are, and so on and so forth. But there is something after this. Now, if there is something after this life, the body is gone. So there is someone which is remaining. Even if the body is gone, that is going to continue on in the next life, according to my thinking. Who is that person? So there we say that is the Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira, just like in the dream, you have a Sukshma Sharira. You have just a mental one, even though the Sthula Sharira is gone in the dream. You discard the Sthula Sharira, but you create another Sharira of your own, based out of your own mind. And so after death also you can create, something like this. But then after a while, even the Sukshma Sharira has to be given up. So the Sukshma Sharira and the Sthula Sharira also is nothing but a manifestation of the Atma. And so really speaking, Sthula Sharira and even finally the Sukshma Sharira, as we went through some intermediate paths, are different from the Atma. Different from the Atma means in a way they are non-different because they are an expression. I mean, once you dissolve an ornament, then the ornament is gone. But hasn't gone anywhere because it has gone and always stayed as the gold itself, which has been melted. That's it. So per se it is different. So the ornament in that sense is different because it can come and go. But in a sense it is the same as the gold. So we know all that. I'm not giving you anything new on that. So that is the discussion that takes place. All right, okay, so let's continue on. Okay, now we go to So now we go to the fourth pada, third chapter, third adhyaya is continuing on, but we move on to the fourth pada, page 230. Okay, so this is a good section to understand, although you can learn it from other sources also. And the topic here of the fourth pada, so this is a heading of the pada itself, not adhikaranas within it. So the topic of the pada is for Nirguna Vidya. Nirguna Vidya means Nirguna Brahma Vidya. Because you can have Saguna Brahma Vidya and Nirguna Brahma Vidya. So Saguna Brahma Vidya means that you see, and ultimately the Saguna has to be dissolved into Nirguna. So the Saguna, in that, this is not a perfect example, but in the same way, you can look at it this way, that the Saguna Brahma Vidya is like someone, an apprentice in a jewelry shop, who is taught to make various ornaments. The skill of making ornaments would be called Saguna Gold Vidya. So you have to see how to chisel, I suppose, and then how to bend by heating and all of that. So this is the skillful artistic person who makes good jewelry. This is called Saguna. And that's also needed because people want to buy ornaments and somebody needs to make it. Some skillful person needs to do it. But as opposed to that, there is a Nirguna Gold Vakya, a Nirguna Gold Vidya. Nirguna Gold Vidya means they are not artists that shape the ornaments, but they are the ones who purify the gold itself. How to make gold? And I mean, if you were to look at the pay structure of, I'm just imagining, but I think this is a reasonable imagination. If you look at the pay structure of that industry, the people who are responsible for converting gold into, and then getting into either a 22 karat gold or less or more, purifying it, understanding how to preserve it, are paid more. Are paid more because that's a very fundamental aspect of it. So in that sense, we are talking about, we may become skillful in our vyavahara, how to lead a life. So this is what Karma Yoga is in the Bhagavad Gita. But the Karma Yoga also is only a tool to have a comfortable life and a very very effective way of dealing with problems and with people and so on and so forth. But really speaking, what you should do is to then go to the next step, which is to look at Nirguna Brahma, Nirguna Atma. So it's a Saguna Atma and a Nirguna Atma, because that is the one that is going to get us to a point where I am independent of changes in time and so on. So Nirguna Vidya. So then this section is to summarize the sadhanas for Nirguna Vidya. That is a sadhana for Saguna Vidya. But then the sadhana for Nirguna Vidya, what does that means? How do I understand it? So there, as the Vedas point out, that you have to segment it in two parts, what is called Antaranga Sadhana and Bahiranga Sadhana. Antaranga means internal, more subtle. And Bahiranga means external, less subtle but still be useful. And so this is the main topic of the fourth pada. And again, we don't have time to really understand all of this. Go and describe all of this, but I'm just giving you the context for it. Okay. So the 341, the first adhikarana of the fourth pada on page 231 is, tell me, is the Atma Jnanam a result of karma and its guna or not? So the Purva Paksha says, of course it is. Because to go to Swargaloka, it depends on karma. And so again there is a problem here, because the things that's going to heaven is the only way to have your happiness, to be happy, to be independent and so on, have wonderful experiences, which there are, no doubt about it. We don't say that there is no heaven. Of course there is. We have so many different kinds of heavens, not only just one heaven, as some of the other schools of thought feel. We have lots of heavens. But this is not what we're talking about. Whitmer's saying is that the Atma Jnanam is not based on karma. Yes, if you want to talk about the Paraloka Gamini, Paraloka Gamini means the one that goes into different worlds after this loka is finished. Supposing your body collapses and you die, then of course nothing is lost. You are supposed to be continuing on, as we talked about in the Gati and Agati. That one is Kartra Rupa. So there we can say, yes, it is the result of karma. But there is also Brahma Tattva Jnanam, where you feel that even the existence of the body itself is false. There is something more real than that. For that, karma is not important. Okay, so this is the discussion that takes place in this particular adhikarana. Then let's move on to adhikarana number 5. There also it says, this is on page 238. So this is the previous discussion was on Atma Jnanam, knowledge. Does the knowledge depend upon karma or not? So there we say that the knowledge of karma is important for you to gain the eligibility for Atma Jnanam. But the Atma Jnanam itself does not depend on karma. This is the discussion on 341. A similar question is asked about not the Atma Jnanam, but Phalam, the result. So this is given in 345 on page 238. And there it says, does moksha depend on karma or not? Purva Paksha says, of course it does. Because it brings in the argument of what is called Angi and Anga. Angi and Anga means the main stem is the angi, and anga is the limb attached to the main stem. So if you have a human body, then you find the way Ishvara has made it is that there is a very fundamental aspect of the body, which is starting at the brain, the thinking, and the breathing, elimination. So some basic aspects of the body are in the angi, that is the stem of the body. And the stem of the body is such that you cannot survive without the stem surviving. But then on top of that you have angas. So you have hands, and you have legs, and you can even say there are some angas in terms of nose and ears and so on. You can lose those and still survive. So these are called anga-angi distinctions between them. So the Purva Paksha says that, listen, the angi requires the anga. You cannot. So this is what it says, that the phalam is based on, moksha is based on karma. So karma is the anga. You also say that karma is the anga. And we also say that karma is the anga. Anga means various limbs of the human existence. So how you preserve your life, what kind of food do you eat, all those kinds of things are important as for you. So of course moksha depends on karma. So Purva Paksha basically says there is no Jivan Mukti. We don't. See, this is the thing that is interesting, because Jivan Mukti is really so difficult. It is so hard to get that people don't even try for it. So a lot of the people, they don't deny the existence of Jivan Mukti, but effectively they do. Effectively they deny the existence of Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti means, so the word Jivan Mukti is in, please understand that Jivan is a present participle. Jivan. So I won't go into the Sanskrit of it. I've even forgotten exactly all the constructs of it. But Jivan means present participle. Present participle means while doing something. Like when you say, when I was cooking, a phone call came. While I was cooking, I was busy cooking. I have a stove on and I was stirring things, and all of a sudden this important phone call came. This is called present participle. While something is happening. So Jivan means while you are living as a human being, there is moksha. Not after living, but while living. So this is called Jivan Mukti. So Jivan Mukti means while living. Now, the contention is there is no Jivan Mukti possible, because it's an oxymoron. If you are busy living, you're doing things, you are eating, you are talking, you are listening, you're doing all of this, you're not sitting still. And moksha means quietness. I mean, this is the feeling of. That is not true. Once you know that the quietness is never disturbed by noise, it is something which is in spite of noise. That is the real mukti. But the thinking is that I want no noise, I want complete silence. No outside sound, no inside thinking, just my own consciousness. This is the feeling this is people have. This is what moksha is. It is not really moksha, because how long can you sustain it? As soon as you open your eyes, moksha is gone. Certainly when you start looking around, talking and so on, moksha is gone. Swami Dayananda used to laugh at it. He says like moksha for half hour. It's called like half hour moksha. It's ridiculous. And so, this is our feeling that the Jivan Mukti means that somehow or the other some new experience will come up. This also will be, in fact, this is discussion more on Jivan Mukti on the 4th Adhyaya. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. But anyway, the main thing is, no, moksha does not depend on karma. No. Then on 346, does Brahma Jnanam depend upon one's own birth? This is an interesting discussion on page 239. And Purvapaksha says, yes, of course. Siddhanti says no. No, it does not depend on your own birth, because you are birthless. You are birthless. So Brahma Jnanam means that, so Chit Swarupaha, Chidatmaha, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So even when there is a birth going on, there is no birth. So this one needs to be understood. It's a question of understanding through the Antaranga Sadhana and Bahiranga Sadhana, but it is not dependent on that. Then let's go on to 349. So this is an interesting one. So it says, can an anashrami gain this knowledge? Anashrami means, ashrama means, the 4 ashrama. So the last one is sannyasa. Right? So one is brahmacharya, first one is brahmacharya, second one is grihastha, the third one is vanaprastha, and the fourth one is sannyasa. So these are the 4 stages of one's life. So the first one is where you don't have any knowledge of anything. From the time the baby is born, you are still gathering simple knowledge. What is what? What is light? What is darkness? What is food? What is health? All of those kinds of things you are gathering. So you are studying. And so that is the brahmacharya. Then grihastha means that you now have adequate knowledge to lead an active life. You can even get married. Your body is now developed. You can create progeny. You can work. You can gain some money. You can protect yourself, build a home. All of those kinds, grihastha. Then the third one is vanaprastha. The vanaprastha means disengagement, relative disengagement. Then finally you have sannyasa, samyak nyasa. That means complete disassociation with what's going on outside. And so the discussion is, can only sannyasis gain this knowledge, or can this knowledge be gained by others? Important question. So you will be very happy to know that it says no. You don't need, this is, Atma Jnanam is not based on ashrama, yes, sannyasis will have a better chance of gaining Atmagyanam. Because you're a little more free than others, but doesn't mean that others cannot do it. So it's really a question of probability, not of the absoluteness. And really all it depends upon is buddhi shuddhi. It is the purity of the buddhi, and exactly how the Bhagavad Gita says that, hey Arjuna, it is much better that you act in life and you create your pure mind by the action rather than just closing your eyes and doing some kind of meditation away from it, when in fact your family is also saying, what the heck is this person doing? We need to, supposing your spouse needs to go to a doctor because you have a medical problem, and you're saying, no, but I am very busy with my meditation. How will that be received? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, so it says that any ashrama, once you have shuddhi, the purity of your own thinking, is enough to have Atmajnana. Yes, we agree that you may not be as effective as when you become disassociated with it. True, but it can be done. So anyway, so the anashrami can gain this knowledge is given in 349. And I think I won't complete the third one. Let's go to the fourth adhyaya. There's only a couple of them, and then we are ready to wrap up. So in the fourth adhyaya, as you know, it is a phala adhyaya. And so the first pada is about Jivan Mukti. It's all about Jivan Mukti. There's some more. I didn't realize it. I thought I was done with this. So, again, now I think I will move a little even faster. So 411, which is page 254, it says, do you need to do Shravanam only once, or do you have to do it again and again? And the answer is not just once. This is given in a very important sutra, which is given on page 254 as part of 411. So this is often quoted. It's called Avritti Asakrit Upadeshat. Avritti Asakrit Upadeshat. So this is an important sutra which says Upadeshat means that it has been said again and again. Again, we have a sort of a repetition here. Throughout the Vedas, it says you have to listen to this again and again. Avritti Asakrit. Sakrit means only once. Asakrit means not once. That means many times. This is our experience. I think I've been saying this for a while. This is my own life's experience. That you don't need to keep on reading different texts. But as you grow in your understanding, your own clarity, the same text reveals, has new revelations for it. So it's called Avritti Asakrit Upadeshat. Okay, that's one perspective. Then 412, the knowledge of Brahma, this is on page 255, is it a new experience or a old one? Really, this is given in a couple of different other ones also. So I mean, I'm just going to wait for another one to discuss it a little bit more. But anyway, this leads to the same thing. So I won't talk any more on that, on this one. So let's leave at that and let's go to the next one. Then on 441, so on the Pada 4 of the Adhyaya 4, 441 is where this is discussed in more detail. Is moksha a new experience or has it been there all along? In fact, I think I will just do this as the last one. And then because I just want to say some final things on it and I won't have time to do it. So I was going to do all the rest of them, 441, 442 and finally 443. Okay, but let me just end with 441. Is moksha a new experience or has been there all along? This is an important, and I think that I would like to end with this. So, the Purva Paksha says it's a new experience, none that you've not had before. Siddhanti says no. So when the Siddhanti says no, this is really something to really think about. And I can just tell you from my own personal experience in life and so on. Because I had the same question and this was something kind of like a revelation to me. I mean, I always believed this, but to actually see this in my own life was something very interesting. What I find is that a sense of freedom has been there all along. Has been there all along. And it pops up clearly once in a while. So, a sense of the continuity of Jivan Mukti, a sense of continuity of the Jivan Mukti, simply allows you to not be interrupted in your happiness. The happiness itself is known to you. Swami Dayanand made this very clear. He says, this is why, by the way, annam, eating, is a very important aspect of our life. Because Swami Dayanand used to say that really speaking, which is called alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means I am satisfied. I don't need anything. This alam buddhi is perhaps given in 3 places that we can recognize in our life. One is after eating a satisfying meal. This is one. The second one is deep sleep. And the third one is Jivan Mukti. So the first one is a very good sample. How? Because other than eating, and of course the other two that we talked about, deep sleep, Sushupti and Jivan Mukti, the Alam Buddhi does not come in any other direction. No other way. But after eating, you have Alam Buddhi. Means enough. I don't need anything. No matter how much, there comes a point where you cannot eat anymore. And you feel, I am full. There is a certain sense of fullness, which is a wrong fullness. It's a physical fullness. But the sense of mental fullness, which follows the physical fullness, is a good sample. So this is an interesting thing. All of us eat several times a day, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know whichever way you look at it. And all of us have the same experience. Your experience of Alam being is your own, which is the same as the one which is given by Ishvara in Ananda, as is mine. So it is not imported, it is not something which is new, which is already there. See, that's the point. Already there. It just manifests itself a little bit more. So this is the eating, the Alam Buddhi. Then the same thing is there when the mind disappears during deep sleep. There is not in the form of an action, but no action. But you don't recognize it because you are under the spell of ignorance. You don't recognize it even though you have the experience. And then when you have the experience of relative in the beginning, but slowly becoming a little bit more prevalent, by doing samadhi, you find that you're able to sustain the same Alam Buddhi. I'm okay the way I am. I don't need anything. And so this kind of what you might call self-experience, lesha of moksha, which will then build up and so on, is already there. It's not as though it's some kind of a super, I find many of these talks in television and so on by the new age people that say, it's a new experience. I mean, that belies the very sense of truth. Because if this is infinity, then it must already be there. It's not a new thing that I am doing. Anyway, that is a whole discussion about... So this is given in very briefly. Obviously, the Brahma Sutra does not really... this is simply a reference. What Brahma Sutra does is not to reveal the vidya. That is all given in the Upanishads. But it simply categorizes them. So it's not as though you're going to find a lot of material to really understand this very well, but it simply validates it. That's the word I was looking for. Brahma Sutra essentially is a validation, and sometimes it is very cryptic validation. It says, yeah, it's the same experience. It's not a new one. If you want to look into it, then you have to go to the reference from the various Upanishads It's not in the Brahma Sutra itself. But the Brahma Sutra itself is a validation and a categorization of the various parts of it. So in that sense, it has been more of a mananam rather than Shravanam. And I think the Brahma Sutra in your own study will become, either you won't even need it. You just study you slowly percolate the knowledge of the various shastra in your own mind. Or if you need some clarification, some validation, then you now have at least a way to look at it. We know where the literature is. We know it has already been approved by Vyasacharya. In fact, he authored it. And so you have a way of really deepening and clarifying your ideas with the help of this book. So I'm really happy that both you and I had a chance to explore this in the last 60 classes. I appreciate your clinging to this, supporting this class. It helped me to also articulate it, to visit it, and to clarify it in my mind. So for that, I am very thankful to you. And with that, I say goodbye to this class, and we will see what new things will come up. I have an idea about the 5 classes that are left before going to Sailorsburg, and I will write you an email explaining which ones we will do for these 5 classes. But then after that, this time slot would be open, and we will have to think about, with your approval, whether we should fill it with another class, not fill it with another class, and what we should do. So that we will do that later. So with that, let me say a prayer and then see if you have any final comments or questions. Ashubhani nirachaste tanoti shubhasantatim smriti matrena yat pumsam brahmatan mangalam param ati kalyana rupatvat nitya kalyana samshrayat smartranam varadatvat cha brahmatan mangalam viduhu ओंकारश्चाथ शब्दश्च द्वावेतौ ब्रह्मणः पुरा कंठं भित्वा विनिर्यातौ तस्मान् मांगलिकौ उभौ ओमथ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति शांति शांतिः हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम. Very good to see you all. And I wish you all a good opportunity to learn and to adopt. And I really enjoyed this very much. And I think, what I'm thinking, with your help, and I think last time Shrida was the one who really helped me with this. I'm going to come up with a good questionnaire and a survey. That's the word I was looking for. I want to do a survey, and the questionnaire will be part of that, which will try to assess from you. And I appreciate some of the comments from Keshav that yes, you want to learn Gita and so on. And I have some ideas. It's not as though I'm blank on that. I already have some ideas. But what I want to do is through this survey, intelligently assess what is it that you are really interested in. Where are you in your life? There obviously things have evolved. There are lots of online classes. There's a lot of wonderful teachers. There's a lot of text that you can do. Your own situation is evolving. Mine is evolving. And so what we need to do is to see how can we maximize our relationship in terms of doing, and what would you like to work on. And so I want to make that as a comprehensive survey between now and July 9th, as I had mentioned to you. And so we have some time. And then based on that, we will reassess how the time will be utilized. And so please be aware of that, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, so with that, very good. I close this class. Hari Om.